Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back at it again with another video. We got the Nigerian perspective with a perspective on version 3.3, and the title of this one goes kind of crazy. All signs point to WuWa's anniversary patch demolishing the standard for gacha storytelling. And I feel like the standard has already been absolutely kicked out of the park. It's been changed in a way that other companies are really going to be regretting from here on out after version 3.1, right? We all know that version 3.1 is widely considered the best story told in a gacha game ever. You take like the visual perspective, you take like the story beats, you take the emotional impact, all of that, and it's truly something that changed everything for a lot of people and had people rethinking how they were viewing the Wuthering Waves story as a whole, and of course, just setting higher expectations in the space for gacha games. And a lot of people are thinking that 3.3, being kind of like the real spiritual continuation of 3.1, is going to do the same thing. And I feel like that's what he's going to be talking about over here, so why don't we go ahead and knowing that this patch is coming up very soon, why don't we see what this one is all about?
In just a couple of days, we're getting what could be the most exciting patch Wuthering Waves has delivered so far.
And this is the thing that is obviously a little bit annoying about this situation. A lot of people view 3.3 as not a good update solely because of the anniversary. And I'll be the first person to tell you that the anniversary itself feels very disappointing, right? It doesn't really feel like an actual anniversary. It doesn't feel like a celebration. It feels like a good patch that has had a fuck ton of pulls just like slapped on the back of it. However, the patch that these pulls have been attached to is easily shaping up to be one of the best patches in the history of the game, just from the content that we've already seen. And I think that this video over here is really honing in on, well, how good the patch actually looks.
This version is packed with almost everything players could want from a gacha game like this. From major combat content like the death of Elusive Realm, which already has people across the gacha space excited, to all the quality of life improvements we're getting, the UI changes, the bike skins, added bike functionality. Really, everything about this patch already feels stacked. But out of everything coming in this update, one feature stands above the rest without question: the story. I mean, we're about to get the climax of one of the best story arcs in the entire gacha genre right now.
Not even one of the best, it is like the best. And I feel like the main thing that has kind of, you know, kept us like kind of like waiting with bated breath is the 3.2 story with like Sigrika and stuff like that, where it's kind of just like, ooh, woe is me. I'm just a silly little girl who doesn't believe in herself, but with the power of friendship and positive affirmation, I've saved the day, right? It's like, that's kind of like the 3.2 story, and it feels like actual filler in between, like the masterpiece that was 3.1 and the supposed masterpiece that's supposed to be in 3.3.
Finally coming face to face with Aleph 1, one of the most mysterious antagonists Wuthering Waves has ever introduced so far. But with this being the case though, there is something important that needs to be discussed here.
And I like that he points out how vague Aleph 1 is. I'm just gonna be fucking honest with you, bro. Like, we played like all the story and stuff like that, and like it feels like we just have not gotten a lot of details about him. Or it. Whatever the fuck Aleph 1 is supposed to be, right? Because it's kind of just like a black hole. It doesn't like talk to us or anything. Doesn't really have the same level of like personability as Leviathan did, right? Like, bro, Leviathan was talking shit all the fucking time. Bro was talking so much during the Renacida arc, like whispering shit like that, right? Like possessing people, all of that. Here, this dude just like fucking and then like does a bunch of shit and like sucks people up. That's it. I don't think Aleph 1 has said a word.
Expectations. I mean, if you've been online over the past few months, then you've probably noticed that ever since we began Lahairo, expectations for this story has been extremely high. I mean, players have built up serious hopes for where all of this is headed. So in this video, I want to ask one simple question. Looking at the entire Wuthering Waves story, from 3.0 all the way to 3.3, everything we've played, everything we know, and most importantly, everything we've already seen from the 3.3 trailer, how well has Wuthering Waves handled the massive expectations the community has placed on this arc? That's what
okay, all right.
we're going to talk about in this video. So if you're into this kind of content, make sure to like the video and let me know your thoughts on the Wuthering Waves story so far.
I already liked the video.
From 3.0 to what we've seen of 3.3, have these chapters lived up to the expectations you had, or do you feel differently about the story altogether?
My personal take is I did not like 3.0 that much because it really just felt like not like the most amazing world building ever. 3.0 second half was definitely a lot better than the first half. Obviously, we love 3.1 because that shit was gas. It was amazing. And then 3.2 to me kind of just felt like a side story that honestly could have happened before 3.1, and I feel like it might have better fit in the storyline. Maybe, like, my personal opinion is maybe they could have gone for, like, 3.0 into 3.2 into 3.1 and then 3.3. And maybe that would have made more sense. But naturally, right? Perhaps I'm wrong. Perhaps I'm not cooking.
Let me know that more in the comments below, and of course, don't forget to subscribe if you can on any of my future videos. Alright, let's get into it. See, if we're going to talk about how well Wuthering Waves has handled expectations, then I believe there are 3 major areas we need to address, or rather, 3 expectations that have been set by me, by you, and by everyone in the gacha space for Wuthering Waves to deliver on. The first being character integration. I mean, this has been one of the biggest discussions in the Wuthering Waves community, to the point where even I've already made a previous video talking about this exact topic and the different layers behind how Wuthering Waves uses characters within a story. But if you've noticed, whether in my own video or in the wider discussion, most of the conversation focused on the previous region, Renacita. So what about Lahairoi? How well has Wuthering Waves handled character integration in the story we're experiencing right now? Once we've answered that, we then need to talk about theories. One thing that was beyond noticeable in the gacha space were the flood of theories about where the Wuthering Waves story was headed next, especially for the chapter we're now approaching in version 3.
Yeah, so basically 3.1 ended off on one of the most, like, absurd cliffhangers that I think a gacha story has ever told. From the perspective of, she's, like, dead, bro. Or everyone thinks she's, like, dead. She got, like, sucked into, like, a black hole or something. And then all you're left with is, like, this fucking, like, barely sentient corpse. Or, like, barely sentient, like, body. Which is, like, it's literally called Ameth in, like, quotation marks, and then, like, it can't even speak, it doesn't, like, do anything, it's, like, basically, like, it's just, like, breathing. That's it. And then I think what it does is it's able to, like, sort of, like, throw a, like, airplane and stuff like that, and the amount of, like, theories for, like, oh, like, what actually is this, how are we gonna go save her, who's gonna be involved, all of that, it went crazy, right? And then, unfortunately, I feel like that conversation really just, like, tapered off and, like, fell off a cliff as we got into 3.2 because we got, like, a fucking Disney fairy tale story instead of, I guess, like, any more additional knowledge for what was going on. And, yeah, I kind of just, like, it was a good time. It was a good time, but it does feel like the pacing was a bit, like, oh, not really conducive to continuing that conversation once, the Sigrika patch came through.
Even though we haven't played that story yet, the real question is this. Based on everything we've seen so far, does it look like Wuthering Waves has met these expectations with regards to the theories? Then finally, we need to talk about the current state of gacha.
Like, people were drawing links back to, like, Honami City, talking about how you could see Ameth, like, as, like, a star in, like, some of, like, the 2.8 cinematics, all of that shit. Bro, the conversation was going crazy. And then 3.2 came around, and it was just like, goodbye, gone.
I mean, right now, we have what many people would call the big 5 gacha games. And if the Neverness to Everness live stream a couple days back is anything to go by, that might become a big 6 before this.
The big 5, I'm gonna be honest, I think y'all are giving Enfield too much credit, ladies and gentlemen. That game is literally just propped up by people being paid to play it. That game is just being propped up by people being paid to play it. It is the most, like, fake game I've ever seen. No engagement on YouTube, and I think the funniest thing over here is hearing the words of an actual Arknight CC talking about Enfield. Bro, there was like this goofy ass, literally hilarious, genuinely fucking hilarious post that I saw from Supa. I'll very much, most likely, stop making Enfield operator guide videos. Just boring. They perform poorly, and you guys in the audience don't even seem to like them all that much. Just a bother overall. 5 days ago, and like, I took a look at this dude's channel afterwards, and like, it was actually the funniest shit I've ever seen. Bro, he's just out here making regular Arknights videos that are farming crazy views, and then like, he unloads this Zhongfengyi one, and it's just trash. It's just dog shit. It's just fucking terrible. And that's every Zhang Fengyi video. That's like every fucking Enfield that's every fucking Enfield 1.2 video. That's every fucking video when it comes to this game. Dude, this game genuinely has no EN audience. Not even a little bit. I have not seen a single person actually get decent views on this garbage. That is the reality of this game. It's actually worse than ZZZ. Like, at this point, it's actually worse than ZZZ in its launch. And, like, bro, I think we even have, like, the Twitch tracker numbers of this absolute piece of shit. I have it on speed dial because it's genuinely so embarrassing all the time. Bro, they're just paying people to play it. And I think the most telling thing is that you see that the peaks are exactly the same, and then it just immediately goes back down. It's because all this is just sponsors, bro. They just pay somebody to pretend that they like the game every update. That's it. And they pay every person in the fucking space. And so any engagement, right? Any idea that this is actually like a Big 5 game or something like that, it's just bought. And you'll even be at the point where there are Enfield creators bragging about how bought they are. And I think the best way for us to look at this, right? Why don't we just go to Google Trends? It's been a while since I looked at Google Trends for this dog shit game. Nah, ain't no way, bro. We gotta go to the past year now, bro. Ain't no fucking way, bro. It's actually at a lower level than it was in 1.1. How do you even do that? Oh my god. This was the live stream. This is the game release. And bro, it's just going back down to levels it was prior to the release. Dude, this is what I'm saying. This game is like not... Content creators will only make videos on this game if they're paid. That's it. They will only make videos on this if they're paid. There is no future for this game. How does it get lower and lower every fucking update? Like, people are saying 1.2 is actually good. Sure. Keep telling yourself that, brother. Absolutely.
This month is over. So with all of that in mind, we have to ask one important question. Is there any game in the gacha space doing it like Wuthering Waves right now?
No. No, not even fucking close. It's absurd how not even fucking close it is.
Whether in terms of hype, momentum, or just pure excitement. So with all that being said, let's begin with the first question. How well has Wuthering Waves handled character integration within the Lahaira story? And really, this is a very interesting place to start, because if you remember, the issue that really sparked this entire character integration conversation was the 3.0 story. More specifically, how Chisa was treated. This was a character that was sidelined in the story, when the general consensus at the time was that it would have made far more sense for her to receive proper focus.
I didn't give a shit about this. The main issue that I had with 3.0 is that nobody had any reason to give a fuck about Linnea's backstory. Bro, her backstory is that she's just a random fucking girl. And they spent like hours on that.
Very easily, that could have been the conclusion to the arc that had been set up all the way back in 2.8. But even more than that, what made that discussion more serious was the precedent it created for the entire Lahaira storyline. I mean, people saw that neglect and understandably believed that it was something we would continue dealing with throughout the rest of the arc. And really, once that belief was already planted in the minds of the community, it goes without saying that Wuthering Waves had its work cut out for it with regards to the future stories that follow. Because now, it wasn't simply giving us a compelling story that made everyone excited for the next chapter. They also had to repair a major concern hanging over the narrative, a flaw that no matter how strong the future stories might be, people could always point back to and say this is something Wuthering Waves still hasn't handled properly. So after version 3.0 introduced that problem, how well has Wuthering Waves responded?
My main thing is that less of a focus on Linnea's backstory, more of a focus on what's actually fucking going on in Lahairoi, and of course, right, or like Star Torch as a whole, and of course weaving in more of this shit would have been a better sort of balance, because like, bro, I'm just gonna be real here, like Linnea's link to Fraxidus, bro, has it like done anything? Like the fact that like, oh, she was like communicating with the Grand Architect at like one point, and that like she like stole the Fraxidus Linnea's letter after like finding their dead body. Like, has that even like led to anything? Is there gonna be, maybe that'll be like concluded in 3.3 and it'll actually mean something, but bro, it's been a couple of versions and it kind of just felt like they were looking for a reason for her to be there.
Honestly, I think everyone, regardless of how they feel about Wuthering Waves, whether they like the game or hate it.
To be fair, we wouldn't know about the stuff that corrupted Hivatia. You do realize corrupting Hivatia was just something that Fraxidus did, right? And Linnea was irrelevant to that point. The only reason why is that, like, she's even slightly relevant is that, like, oh, That was where she, like, murked somebody that was related to Fraxidus. And so she went back over there, but there was, like, so many other ways that it could have been done where it's just, it's a very loose plot point, right? It's not something where you just looked at and it was like, oh, that was, like, incredible writing over there. Yeah, no, that was definitely necessary to move forward the plot.
Everyone would agree that the game has done a phenomenal job fixing character integration. I mean, they created a closeness with these characters that we honestly had not seen before in Wuthering Waves, and even beyond that, a level of connection that we don't often see in many gacha games. Something we first started seeing signs of in the Amith story, just one version after the issue was introduced. I mean, even though the story centered around Amith, characters like Luke were naturally woven into the narrative and played meaningful roles within it. And even when you look at the smaller appearances in the story, you'd realize that characters like Lucilla and Segrika were introduced in ways that gave us just enough to build hype, while also creating this real curiosity for what is coming next.
I think Segrika was introduced in 3.1 and she thought we were schizophrenic because we were talking to ourselves in the classroom. Yeah, that was how we got introduced to Segrika in 3.1. Very funny moment.
And the best part about this is that it has continued through every single story we've gotten, including the ones we're about to receive. Take the Luke story, for example, which came right after the Amith story. A story where a character like Lucilla plays a pivotal role within it. And in case having one or two characters involved was not enough, Wuthering Waves made sure that the story we're experiencing right now in 3.2 was full character integration from start to finish. I mean, nearly everyone we interacted with throughout the entire Lahairoi storyline, along with newer characters like Denny and Hiyuki, played meaningful roles. And in Hiyuki's case, a genuinely badass one.
We all know that this was done just as advertisement for the anniversary. Let's be entirely real here, right? This was just done for the sake of advertising because they knew Segrika wasn't going to be that popular. But the thing is, I don't think anyone was upset by this. Not really. Basically, yeah, hashtag ad for sure, but it's working. Yeah, she inflicted glacial chafe on them all. That's why they're frozen.
Even in the 3.3 story we're about to get, based on everything we've seen so far, that level of character integration still has not slowed down. I mean, right now, even without anyone explaining it to us, even if we hadn't seen the live stream yet, we can already tell that characters who were involved in previous chapters will continue to matter in 3.3. But it goes even further than that. Cause see, this trailer already shows major involvement from a character like the Shorekeeper. Definitive proof of long-term character integration within Wuthering Waves. I mean,
that was what I was excited. That's actually one of the things I'm most excited about was the fact that we were hearing Shorekeeper talking quite a bit during the 3.3 trailer. Like, actually a lot, to be honest. And, you know, that means that the Black Shore is probably tangentially going to get involved. And that comes with it, right? Quite a cast, too.
Shorekeeper has been a constant presence literally since version 1. And the crazy part is, even with all of that, the conversation around character integration still doesn't end there. Because there is one character who has been integrated beautifully across the story. A character who plays one of the most important roles in the narrative, yet rarely gets acknowledged for how consistently Wuthering Waves has kept them relevant across multiple chapters.
Is this motherfucker about to talk about Abby?
And that is the Grand Architect.
Oh, okay. Alright, good. Good. I was about to say, I thought I was gonna get ganked there for a second. Okay.
See, if you remember, I made a video a couple of months ago stressing how important it is for a game like Wuthering Waves to keep a major antagonist as a consistent presence within the story.
I mean, I think they've been doing a pretty good job because, like, Nivora seems to be relatively popular across the player base. They've done a good job weaving, like, Nivora into, like, the Segrika story. I would say that's probably the main draw of 3.2 is getting more context and lore about like the Grand Architect and how they're like affecting just like Lahairoi as a whole, Denya, the whole Segrika thing, the Heliotic Six and all of that. They feel like they're working in the background in a bunch of different places and obviously, right, still interacting with almost every single goddamn character. I feel like the only one like he hasn't managed to interact with yet is like, oddly enough, Lucilla? I think so. I think it's Lucilla.
We need to feel that character's influence. We need to understand that they are actively working against us. And it turns out Wuthering Waves understood that perfectly because the Grand
Chisa? Oh, dude, yeah, she looked creepy as fuck here. Yeah, who do you think trapped her in Honami City? Yeah, why do you think Chisa's in Honami City?
Architect especially is a character whose presence has been everywhere. From Renacita...
Mordier? Yeah, why do you think the reactor husk tried to fuck her shit up?
all the way into Lahairoi, even going into the future story that we're about to experience. And if we're being honest with ourselves, this may be one of the best story decisions Wuthering Waves has ever made. I mean, I think we can all agree that every scene involving the Grand Architect, no matter what form they appear in, becomes one of those moments in the game. That's moments where you smile to yourself and start anticipating what comes next. Okay, so now that we have proven that Wuthering Waves has more or less removed the fear surrounding character integration,
I think one of the parts that makes the Grand Architect's role very, very, very interesting is the reveal that you got in 2.7, where it's like all of the Fraxidus overseers, and then it's like, I think something about like being the Waystones. So essentially, the Grand Architect is basically saying that like our mission, the one that the rover has, is essentially like the same as the one that Fraxidus ends up having too. And so it's kind of just like a bit of like a, oh, okay, so like they're trying to like help us out, I think, but they're going about it in a really roundabout way, and like kind of not in the way that we obviously want, but they like help us technically, right? Beat Leviathan. They kind of like help us find out that there's a Fraxidus agent doing some shit in the background over here, and likely, well, knowing what Denya's able to do, right? She's the Threnodian Resonator, Aleph 1's Resonator, like, and she has the ability to protect people from void matter and getting their shit deleted. I feel like Denya's gonna have a pretty significant role as well for, you know, being on the whole Aleph 1 takedown journey.
Let's move on to the theories. See, in case you're not aware, after 3.1 ended, the community began creating theories based on everything we had seen in previous versions, and now those events connected to 3.1. And while there were plenty of theories floating about, the biggest one by far was the idea of time looping being integrated into the story. The possibility of us going back in time, returning to previous chapters, maybe even reliving those same stories, but now with a completely different understanding. So the real question right now is, after seeing some of the content for the upcoming story, along with the environment we'll be entering, how much of what we've seen actually supports the theory people already had? And
I think the time loop theory is definitely one of the more interesting ones, where it's like going back to like Honami via like some like cassette tape or something like that. But I'm not like entirely sure if that's even like, this is the thing, they wouldn't put that in the trailer. That's something that I feel like they wouldn't put in the trailer, going back in time or a time loop, and they would leave that as one of the most like absurd surprises ever. And let's just think about it this way. What's one of the most absurd surprises that we had in 3.1? Rover going home, Sigillum being Rover, all of that, right? Like, all that shit was kept under wraps when it comes to the story. So if there is, like, an actual, like, time loop back to Honami, whatever that shit is going on, they're definitely going to keep that one a secret. And we all know Hiyuki via her, like, paper origami shit, right? Hiyuki was all over Honami City. Like, fucking everywhere. Shows up very, very, very often.
Really, the truth is, not only do we have signs that some of these theories could actually be fulfilled, we also have brand new theories appearing. The biggest one right now is the theory of Amy's death. The idea that we might fail. And honestly, as much as people may want to dismiss that possibility with the usual arguments that this is a gacha game, that Wuthering Waves would never do something like that because they want these characters to remain playable. The reality is that the game has already gone against players' expectations before. I mean,
bro, Amy's been dead for basically 2 patches. Think about it that way. When what, like, modern gacha have you had a character in limbo like this for 2 patches? ZZZ couldn't even have one. They could not even have one, bro. Like, they should have let Yi Shungite die, right? They should have actually let Yi Shungite die, but they couldn't. They had to save her in the patch. Ting Yun, nobody gave a fuck about her, let's be honest.
Take the Frolova story for example, a story where the game, even if only temporarily, killed Frolova off, but still preserved her as a playable character. I mean, people don't usually bring up this idea as much, but the reality is that alone challenged the usual logic people use when discussing what—
like, did anyone care when Ting Yun came back? No, bro. She was, like, stuck in like, the last— like the literal like last version of like a 2 point like of the Pentecote arc, and it was just like, it felt so ham-fisted. Bro, she was just there to sell a character. That was it.
these games can or cannot do with their cast. And really, they could absolutely do something similar with Amith. Hell, they're already doing that right now. I mean, story-wise, Amith is completely immobile, unable to act, unable to help us at all in our journey. Yet the Amith we use as a playable character is effectively separate from the current story condition. So if the game chose to go down a drastic route like that, even though I would be absolutely excited, I truly would not be surprised. But setting that theory aside, the bigger question still remains. How exactly does Wuthering Waves support the time travel theory? And well, this is where I got a theory of my own. See, I want everyone to look at this scene. This is the first scene the game shows you in the version 3.3 graphic review. And really, I want you to ask yourself one question. What does this remind you of? I mean,
Elden Ring.
No matter how you look at it, one thing feels obvious. This does not look like a normal tree. In fact, it bears a striking resemblance to a very important one. Yggdrasil, the world tree of Norse mythology.
That's, I mean, to be fair, Elden Ring's tree is also modeled off of this too, so yeah, same shit.
And really, this assumption makes perfect sense. I mean, we already know that Lahaire draws heavy inspiration from Norse mythology, with the Thododian and the Exostrider carrying names straight from that myth. So really, if this is Wuthering Waves' version of Yggdrasil, then I think anyone familiar with Norse mythology can already tell where I'm going to with this discussion. Because both in mythology-inspired stories and in many forms of media that use this tree, there is always one thing involved that connects this tree to whatever story is being told: time travel. Now,
hey, I know all y'all saw, what was that Avengers movie? Endgame? Was it Endgame? Yeah, Endgame. Yeah. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember that shit where like Thor was like going back in time and all that stuff, right? Was Thor like the only one that like ended up seeing like ended up interacting with like a past version, or like he was like the one that was like doing the most, to be honest. Yeah, Fat Thor. Fat Thor in Endgame was doing a lot in Asgard.
Of course, all of this is still speculation for now. We won't know the truth until we actually play the game. But even so, it is exciting to think about the possibilities and the kind of direction they could take this narrative.
Yeah, his mom and getting the hammer.
Now we move into the current state of Gacha, and this is a very important conversation to have in a video like this, because as I mentioned earlier, even though so much of the discussion right now is centered around Wuthering Waves, it is not the only game in the space. There are other major titles standing beside it, games that at the very least should be generating a level of hype comparable to what Wuthering Waves has right now. But really, the more you look at the landscape, the stranger it becomes. I mean, you have Honkai Star Rail and Zelda Zone Zero, two massive games, yet neither feels like the center of conversation right now, and
well, big reasons for that is their stories are shit, their balance is shit, and their character design is shit. Yeah, no, it's kind of like a dynamic duo between they actually all share the three same aspects: shit story, shit balance, and shit character design. Yeah, no, it's consistent. It's consistent.
That has been the case for what feels like months. Then you have Arknight's Enfield,
a scam.
A game where many people have spoken of its recent story and its potential, yet due to how much it has pushed so many players away from it, that praise has not been amplified nearly the way it could have been. Then
I don't think that there's anyone playing the game anymore to speak the truth about it. That's what I think is actually going on. I think it's a bunch of retarded glazers saying that the 1.2 story is amazing, and then nobody is just playing the game anymore because they all quit, right? They all quit the game. And so anyone that would have told the truth about how bad the story probably is, they're all gone. They're all gone. Mr. Pokey rated the 1.2 story a 9.1. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Pokey rated the 1.2 story a 9.1. That's how you know it's dog shit. This is how you know it's bad.
There is Genshin Impact, a game that realistically should be generating this level of discussion.
We need the truth, Saint. You gotta play it. I have not played any of the Enfield 1.1 story, and I'm not gonna play it because, bro, the game is not fun. It is one of the most unfun games I think I've ever seen in the space. Legitimately, I don't know how they managed to design a game that actually makes you actively not want to play it. That is impressive by all. I barely touched 1.0. I wish I didn't. I wish I quit during 1.0. Genuinely, I wish I quit during 1.0. I have not... bro, I haven't logged in or done dailies in the game in like 3 weeks. I'm pretty much like done and over with it. I should just uninstall it at this point. It's actually dog shit.
Especially with what was promised in the last version. A quest that was supposed to dive deeper into one of the most important characters in the game. But also a game that dropped the...
But you know what Gacha Smack said about 1. Bro, I'm sorry. I gotta get this insane quote over here.
We gotta clean up the stream, bro. It's time for me to grift into Infield. It's time, boys. It's time for me to grift into my Infield sponsorship. Are you ready for this? It's about to be the most legendary grifting of all time. Sarcasm, by the way.
No, it's not.
Play the game at least 4 to 5 times a week. More than I play WuWa these days, actually.
How are you supposed to take that seriously when Enfield is such a dog shit fucking game? Bro, it's like anyone that plays games will tell you Enfield is fucking awful. You, like, it's not even like an argument. The game is just not fun. And to, like, imply that it's more enjoyable to play every day than WuWa has to be one of the most ridiculously shit-brained, scatterbrained, fucking grifting-brained takes a CC can make, bro. Like, this live stream over here, the shit he says in here to defend Enfield, his fucking queen, because he's getting the bag, right? And we all talked about how bag-ridden this game is, bro. It's just like... It just gets lower and lower. This just means that the entire audience is just finding the game not appealing, not fun, not engaging. It just gets lower and lower. The numbers don't lie, but money does. Oh my fucking god, bro.
Ball so hard that even players who want to talk about it, even hardcore Genshin Impact fans, don't really have much to work with. And yes, Wuthering Waves is not off this discussion too. It's had its anniversary. And really, there were disappointments. There were valid complaints from players who felt the game could have done more. But even with that criticism, look at everything Wuthering Waves continues to give its community. Look at the version tied to the anniversary. Look at the amount of hype this patch alone has generated.
And when you think about the fact that a lot of the things that Kuro ended up removing is due to them literally listening, right? That they were goofing off too much during the anniversary live stream. They had too many cinematics, too much like music and shit like that. And they weren't just like, you know, giving the details straight and stuff like that. And that the anniversary banners were predatory and shit. Well, great. They just then gave you a patch with like a fucking speed ran anniversary segment. Way less like feature rich events. And it's kind of just like an A+ patch with a bunch of pulls slapped onto it. Sure, you can say that's listening, but I do feel like they listened to the wrong part of the player base.
And beyond that, there is the excitement already building up for what comes next, especially with the upcoming collaboration and everything surrounding it. I mean, right now, it generally feels like Wuthering Waves is the one game consistently generating this level of attention, still proving 2 years in, with more competition entering the markets, that it remains the standard of gacha.
I mean, that's the thing, bro. It like, this anniversary is being led in by some of the worst fucking patches that, like, other games are having. Wait, no, I think somebody actually gave me a bit of, like, a... Bro, this is a voice line from the new anniversary unit in HSR. Are you ready?
Up! All eyes are on you!
This is Honkai.
That's the HSR anniversary, bro. I don't even want to quote that because it's so bad. Like, nah, this ain't like Varka, right? Where it's like, Varka's like just bad enough to be good. This is just bad.
Honestly, I cannot wait to see what this game has in store for us next, but that is just me. What about you? What are your thoughts on the expectations that have been placed on Wuthering Waves? Do you, like me, believe that the game has done a phenomenal job meeting those expectations? Or do you think there is more to this conversation? Tell me that in the comments below, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one.
Awesome video over here by the Nigerian perspective once again, and I think he does provide a shit ton of context over here for all of the expectations that are leading into this anniversary and, of course, this story update. But if we do have to be honest, most of it is going to be on the story. Most of it is going to be on the events, and most of it's going to be on the new area because there's simply not that much content anywhere else, especially when it pertains to the anniversary perspective. And it's just unfortunate as a whole that that's where the discussion leads, because this, again, just feels like a business as usual patch, right? With a shit ton of feature updates and not really the stellar sort of anniversary experience that we had last year. But with that, the game is still on one of, like, the best trajectories compared to other gachas. And I think a lot of the pessimism naturally comes from the fact that all of these other gachas, I just showed you HSR, we all know that ZZZ is a fucking disaster. And of course, we all know when it comes to Enfield, that is the most fake, bought out shit we've ever seen in the space, and nobody's actually playing the goddamn game. Earnestly, it's so clear nobody's actually playing this shit. And so it's kind of just like all the gachas are in a rough spot. I haven't even mentioned Genshin being on like one of the most Joker updates anyone's ever seen, where they've raised the damage ceiling once again and just fucked everything in the game with power creep. Gacha as a whole is really just not feeling that great. It's in milking mode for a lot of games. Hoyoverse is basically in milking mode for all of its titles. Enfield's already in milking mode with one fucking new character in an update. And again, no fucking polls. So it's kind of just like WuWa is feeling like the sort of like sole survivor that hasn't turned the game into a steaming pile of dog shit. And we still have more to look forward to in 3.4 with, hopefully, the Cyberpunk collab and all of that goodness, but who knows if that's even going to come in 3.4. And of course, NTE might be coming in to save it, but we can't be sure about that one either. So yeah, awesome video once again. I think it sets us up for a good little framing heading into 3.3, but we'll just have to see where it goes from there. Let me know what you all thought about this one. Peace out.